We're recording. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're watching this, people of YouTube, and welcome to back to another video. I know it's been such a long time since I posted, but back in action. I'm back in action now, and for today's video, I'm gonna be reviewing the two TV shows that did the semi sort of cameo with Grey's Anatomy. Private Practice and Station 19. Who's the better show between the two? It's Private Practice, no question there. Also, fun fact, if you have not finished watching all Private Practice or Station 19 at all, please leave. Or if you do not want to watch neither show at all and just want to hear the whole plot on both these shows, feel free to stay. Now, before I go over why Private Practice is better, let's go over the characters who are in the show. Anson Montgomery, the main character of the social show, like aka Derek Shepherd's ex-wife, is in here. Amelia Shepherd too, but she doesn't show up until later on in late season 3. Violet Turner, who seriously needs to meet Meredith Grey because they both have a lot in common. Del Parker, the man who sits at the front desk at the office there and hands out files to all the doctors there. Key Wilder, the calm gentleman who literally changes character as time progresses. Naomi Bennett. I'll get to that in a second. Jake Riley, the one guy who doesn't show up until towards the end of the show, but he is worth it. Charlotte King, everyone's favorite woman that they need in their life is in the show. Cooper Freeman, because also one interesting character who sometimes feels like is he an all-in-one package? Well, I'll get to that in a second. And the therapist himself, Sheldon Wallace, who is like a short 5'6" dude who is much better character than some people on here. And then Dr. Samuel Bennett, Naomi Bennett's ex-husband. Now, in terms of how this affects the Grey's Anatomy universe, it takes place during the events of late season 3 all the way up to early season 9 of Grey's Anatomy. But to be honest, all the events, they mostly do cameos. It's not like they do cameos with Grey's Anatomy all the time. It just happens every 8 or so episodes, or maybe more than that, because Private Practice takes place in California, while Grey's Anatomy is taking place in Seattle, so they don't see each other much, with Station 19, which we'll cover in a second. But but that's how this affects the whole Grey's Anatomy universe, and there are only 6 seasons. It's not 16 and soon enough 17 we'll see with Grey's Anatomy soon. So the positives of the show, there's quite a lot of them. So the one thing about Practice that does better than Grey's Anatomy is that they show more types of studying medicine or whatnot. There's Sheldon is a therapist, for example. Anson continues delivering babies like she always does. Violet, she does couples counseling, she helps counsel couples, which maybe therapy and couples counseling is the same thing, but not really. And Cooper helps children who are sick, so that's also one thing. Charlotte continues to be a good surgeon, as well as Amelia Shepherd as well. But the point is that they show more of medicine and different types of doctors, whereas Grey's Anatomy only has just surgeries, and that's it. Which, yes, they do deliver babies. They do show people delivering babies too, but not as much now, because people like Arizona and Alex Karev are gone. One other thing is that there was one episode where Charlotte was legit harassed by a dude at work in her office, and they found her. They stitched her up, and the guy got away. But in the first time where the police got the guy, he was there, but she pretended he was not there, because yes, she was scarred. She was harassed in her office, and there was no escape for her. But later down the road, he shows up in the ER because his girlfriend alleged stabbed him or something, and he was just bleeding to death, and he did survive, although thanks to Charlotte's help. And she marched into that room, in the same room as him, as he was resting, and she said the police are on their way here. and then you go, and then he starts begging and whatnot. And Charlotte said to him, "I'm not scared of you. I pity you." That right there is like really, really, really strong of her. Like it shows that she's a much stronger person than the guy who harassed her. Like that's really cool. On a lighter note, I apologize to the victims of like sexual harassment and rape because you all don't deserve that to happen. Like I don't know why there are people who have these kinds of thoughts and they decide to do this to women without consent, because that's like because that's like that's harm to someone. So like don't do that unless the person you're doing it to gives consent. So I guess just a quick side note there. And then like Violet also has her own like a roller coaster too, where she had one patient who was trying to have a baby, but unfortunately she couldn't have a baby. And then out of nowhere she shows up to Violet's house. It gives her like some sort of drive which makes her unable to stand, and she legit, I guess, and her patient legit cut into her stomach, and at the time she was pregnant. She cut into her stomach, took her kid, and left her on the ground to bleed, and she would be dead if it weren't for Cooper to like show up to her house and like save her. And then she managed to stay alive, and they did get the baby back because the patient, out of, I don't know how stupid she would be, she took the she took the baby to the hospital just to like get it for just to get a checkup, and they take the kid, and then she got arrested. And then later on in the show, she's like, because they finally had to say her place in the whole like crime that happened there, where she has to say that her patient was guilty for stealing her kid, but I don't know why the suspect decided that, like, oh, like just because they know that you can say to them that like I was not myself there. And like if I was in her shoes, I would say like you completely have to like yourself. You deserve to be in prison the rest of your life. But Violet, out of nowhere, I'm like, I mean, out of nowhere says like, oh wait, yeah, she was not herself that time. Don't bring her in jail. That right there, I mean, I appreciate her for having such a sweetheart, but come on, man. I mean, in my eyes, I think that she should have let her to rot in prison, but you all can say otherwise to me. And that's where the negatives come into play, and that's the characters. Let's start with you, Cooper, because he's a combination of Owen Hunt and Izzy Stevens, if you guys have watched Grey's Anatomy. And let me explain. Because Cooper gets too emotionally involved with his patients, which are children, which, yes, I can see which I can see, like, why he's doing it, because because he doesn't want kids to, like, die at such a young age because they have so much to live for. But he has, like, cross lines, like, he has, like, forced a signature in one form just for the kid to have it. And he even, like, helped a patient and the dad, like, run away from the hospital because the dad and the mom were divorced, and like she had full custody of the kid, but the son ran away. But she thinks that it was the dad that took the son, so Cooper helped them both get away. But I'm like, don't do that, man. And I say he's a combination of Owen Hunt too, because like Owen Hunt and Christina, and with him Amelia too, because Cooper was at first telling Charlotte, we need to have like, I want to have a kid. He keeps talking on and on about having a kid. And then in the first couple of seasons when Charlotte and Cooper got married, she didn't want to, but well, later on once Cooper's ex-girlfriend showed up to her doorstep, and she had a kid, she had Cooper's son, which Cooper's son, it was already 7 years old. I would be ticked off. I would tell her to go away, but for the kid, I would say, like, stay as long as you want. And that's when Charlotte started saying, like, I want a kid, because if having a kid makes Cooper happy, that's what she wants to. So they have kids, but it doesn't happen until towards the end of the final season. But I think Cooper, what you should know is that you should never force a woman to have a baby, because it's her body and her choice. So like, because if she wants to have a kid, you gotta let her decide how many kids she wants, which they do have, like, I believe 3 kids, and also counting Cooper's 7-year-old as well. But still, you gotta it's her choice, so don't force her to do something. Because Sam, you are next. He is legit Owen Hunt. Not in terms of kids. Like he doesn't want kids at all. Like back when Addison was trying to have a kid, because both Sam and Addison get together later on the show. She wants to have a kid, but Sam doesn't want to. I say he's like Owen Hunt because he doesn't like being by himself all the time. Like at first he's trying to hook up back with his ex-wife Naomi. Then he tries to, and then he says I love Addison, but that doesn't last. But that lasts for only a couple seasons. And then he tries to find another girlfriend. And then and after all those women that he has slept with and throughout the entire show, in the end, he officially gets back together with Naomi. And he says that he loves her. And the night before, and before he said that to her, like they had a quick one-night stand, and that ended up getting Naomi pregnant. And that's how. And I guess that was one of the reasons why he wanted to go back. But still, Sam, you are an idiot. And then that's where I have to talk about you now. Do y'all remember Maggie Pierce and Catherine Fox? In my eyes, I think these two are the most annoying characters in Grey's Anatomy, but she makes both of them feel like angels. She's much worse. So, like, what does she do? Well, let's just start with the fact that because her daughter, because both Naomi and Sam have a daughter named Maya, and Maya, like, she's 16, but because she was seeing someone and she ended up getting pregnant, and immediately Naomi forces her to like have an abortion. She dragged her to Addison's office and say, like, you need to give Maya an abortion. And I'm like, I mean, yes, she's not 18 yet. I see that, but at the same time, this is still her body and her choice, similar to what I said with Charlotte and Cooper, because but she says that she doesn't believe in abortion, and I'm like, you don't believe in abortion. Yet here you are saying like have an abortion, and I'm like, having an abortion is the last thing I would do if the person I'm with says that she doesn't want a kid. I would say give the kid up for adoption, but whatever. And another thing is that Naomi like always has a problem with Sam dating Addison, but to which I say, I'm like, Naomi, and you said it yourself, like you don't want anything to deal with Sam and whoever he is seeing. So why are you like impeding in his life? Like, stop. But at least the good news is that she leaves towards the end of season 4, and she doesn't come back until the last episode of season 6, which more than enough makes me happy. But still, like they only literally makes Maggie Pierce and Catherine Fox feel just as sacred and like an angel like Meredith Grey. And plus, one other problem with Private Practice is that Private Practice takes the Grey's Anatomy route in this show by killing off a couple of good characters on the show. Like, Dale gets killed off in I think in season 3, I believe. I could be wrong, but his character gets killed off. But the reason why for that is that, and besides him handing patient files to Addison, Naomi, and Violet, he really doesn't do anything in terms of how much he impacts Private Practice and the Grey's Anatomy universe. So like even the actor, like as I said, the actor didn't really see much potential in his character. So him and Sean just like talk, and then his character got removed, which I don't really think it's a big loss. Like, I didn't really think too much of Dale. I don't remember much of him at all, even after finishing the show. Because Pete also gets killed off later on in the show, I believe in the end of season 5, early season 6. So Pete, I felt like was like kind of a big loss, because I like Pete. He did have his moments where he annoyed me, like he wouldn't talk to Violet at all because he's not good at expressing his feelings, which, yes, I know, like, that's a general problem with guys, too, is that they don't really express their feelings much. I mean, I rarely see my dad cry, and my mom cries, like, specifically in stuff like emotional episodes on TV, like Grey's Anatomy, or, like, stuff that really broke her heart. But, this right here was kind of a big loss for me. Like, because you didn't have to do him like that, Shonda, please. Like, keep the Grim Reaper in Grey's Anatomy, but not here. But in conclusion, yes, the show has its flaws, but it's not that much of a bad show. Yes, the characters are annoying, and they suck, other than Sheldon, Charlotte, and Addison, and a little bit of Amelia. Emil, when she first comes in, she goes crazy on the drugs in the beginning, and of course she goes to rehab and she's better, but she was crazy there. But still, if you're a long-term veteran of Grey's Anatomy and you're tired of rewatching that whole series over and over again and want to see something that's still in the Grey's Anatomy universe, you should watch the show. It's much better than this show, for sure. So like in my recommendation, I'm gonna give Private Practice a 7 out of 10. It's not a bad show whatsoever. If you can get past the bad characters on the show, it's really really good. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a nice rest of your day, night or morning, and I hope that you all like really look into the show if you all are curious to check it out. If you have any questions or comments, please comment down below and I'll respond to them. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you all.